Nora, call the roll.
Mr. Berkowitz.
Here.
Mr. Kaplan.
Here.
Mr. Parikh. Here. Mr. Reddy.
Present.
Mr. Willens.
Here.
Chairman Ira King.
Present.
We also have a board planner, Mr. Chadwick.
Present.
Our board engineer, Mr. Holloway.
Here.
Our board attorney, Mr. King.
Present.
Okay, let's start off the evening with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this point in this evening's meeting, is there any member of the public that has any business to be brought to this board that is not on this evening's agenda? I'm having a lot of trouble seeing with the glare coming from the spotlights, though, so if I miss something, oh, here comes somebody. Oh, no, that's the microphone.
You have to speak into the mic, please. We can't really hear you.
I got it right here next to my mouth. I don't know what else to say. Can you hear me now? Yes, you can hear me? Okay, we have one case on the agenda this evening. It's application 2171, Puddingstone Developers, seeking a C variance for steep slope disturbance and walls. Mr. O'Neill, are you ready?
Yes, good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members. Excuse me a minute. Before you proceed, Counselor, I'd like to ask Chairman and maybe you, Counselor, a couple questions for clarification as a member of this board of our role tonight. As you know, we are all volunteers. We are all citizens of this town, and we love to have participation from the residents here on the cases that are brought before us. Our role is to review the information provided to us and determine whether or not the variances being requested by the applicant are things that best serve the public, developer, and the needs of our township. We are all volunteers. We're not necessarily professionals in any given area, even though we have a lot of professionals. My question, Mr. Chairman, tonight is there's a lot of publicity about this case, and we have this wonderful room here to proceed with. But I want clarity on what it is that we need to do with this board tonight. And the counselor maybe ask, or you can answer that, or maybe our attorney can answer, but I'm a little unclear.
A brief overview, and then I'm going to ask Mr. O'Neill to make a presentation, is that there are two homes in question, and the two homes will be built regardless of what happens in this meeting tonight. Yet the applicant is not here for approval to build the two homes. He's here for site plan modifications. So, like I said, Mr. O'Neill could pack up his bag right now, go out the door, and get on a bulldozer and start doing excavation if you wanted. The houses are going to be built. That's all I can tell you with regard to that. Mr. O'Neill, is there...
Well, yes, Mr. Chairman.
I don't hear it.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Joseph O'Neill for the applicant. You are correct, Mr. Willens and Mr. Chairman. The application that we're dealing with tonight is modification of approvals that were originally granted by a plat filed back in...
You went dead.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this case has never been before the Board of Adjustment prior. This was a planning board case, subdivisions, right, Mr. Chadwick? And so this is our first bite at the apple.
New technology is always tough to deal with, right?
How about now? All right, so thank you for your patience. This is a modification of approvals that were granted back in 2003 for a project that has been underway ever since then. These are the last 2 lots that we're dealing with where homes are going to be built, and we're also going to be talking a little bit about the pump station that's on an adjoining lot. But as the approvals stand right now, we can proceed with the 2003 approval and put 2 homes right there. What we're asking to do tonight is to modify that approval to allow to not put in such extreme retaining walls as you may have seen in other portions of the development, to smooth that out, and to basically come in with a tree planting plan to replace some of the trees that are going to be removed. So it's a great improvement over what the application was back in 2003. And we think the board will prefer this to the giant retaining walls that were approved at that time by the planning board.
Does that answer your question, Mr. Wilson?
Well, Counselor, just maybe other board members have it. So the point being right now, for our consideration and for the participants here who we represent as well from the residency, the issues are the retaining wall, right?
That's right.
Height, right? And extending clear of trees. Is that about
Right.
the level of our
We're doing a
involvement here?
soil moving permit to allow for fill to be brought on site to smooth the site out in such a way that retaining walls will not be necessary in such extreme dimensions as may be on some of these other approvals. So it's a removal of retaining walls, really. There are a couple still left. We can go over that. There's another thing that I think is probably working on the public. At one point during the last administration, the administration did not want to take a large portion of the property that was being deeded over to it along with the pump house. So they wanted us to modify the 2003 approval to actually make the 2 houses where the homes are much larger. We actually applied at the planning board, and I think the reaction from the application at the planning board made the administration rethink that approach. So we're back to the original configuration of these 3 lots. So you'll see when we begin discussing this, one of these lots is much larger. It's where the pump house is. It wraps around the other lots. That's all to remain undisturbed and deeded over to the township.
Joe, how many acres is that?
I've got 11 acres.
That is going to the town?
Pardon me?
That is given to the town?
Yes, it was part of the original approval. The last administration, for whatever reason, decided they did not want that much property, and it was incorporated into the 2 remaining home lots, which would have given them giant backyards. So we're back to the original proposal. I don't know the thinking behind it. I don't know where the idea came from and why it was ultimately abandoned, but this is back to the original 2003 approval configuration.
Could I ask one more question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, you may.
As I drive around, I see a whole lot of signs of Save the Ridge. And there's obviously a lot of motion around this. Looking at the site and looking at the development up there already, I'm not sure I fully understand the objections on this thing that's called Save the Ridge and what we're going to be dealing with on this variance. Can anybody help me with that a little more here?
Well, I'll bet there are a few people in the audience who will be
Okay, very
addressing
good.
that.
Okay, very good. And we value the input from the citizenry. Clearly, we have a lot of experts here that we listen to, but we also listen to everybody that we represent in the town, as fellow taxpayers and whatever. So, and I must say, as a board member up here, it is amazing to me the amount of wonderful information we receive from the residents, and that has a major impact on our decisions. But I also got to say, it can't be just, we don't want the damn thing, okay? We have to have good reasons to look at these reviews and make our decisions. So with that, I'll yield back to you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. O'Neill, you ready to proceed?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to call Pat McClellan as our engineer for this evening. Mr. McClellan has appeared before this board many times. His licenses are still in order, and I would offer him as an engineer.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear affirm testimony you're about to give before the board is true, so help you God?
I do.
And for the record, can you state and spell your name?
Yes, Patrick McClellan, McClellan.
And your attorney has qualified you that your licenses are in all good? And you've, yes, you appeared before this board many, just for the benefit of the audience. You've appeared before this board and other boards in the state of New Jersey.
Yes, I have.
Mr. Chairman, he is qualified.
So, Mr. McClellan, I'm going to give you the microphone here in a minute, but while you're setting up, I'm going to encourage, there are a lot of people sitting towards the back here and to the left. Our exhibit's going to be right here on my left to show the board, so I would encourage you to move up right over there, plenty of seats, so you'll be able to see the exhibit, so there'll be no confusion. These are nice people. They have not bitten anyone to my knowledge.
And you can put that in your pocket. Or in your shirt pocket.
All right, so can you hear me? Just want to make sure it's working.
We can hear you. Can you hear him, audience?
Good? Thank you. Good evening, everybody. My name is Patrick McClellan. I'm the site engineer, as the council has indicated. I have on a board tonight the submission set of drawings that we have, and I just wanted to take everybody through a brief understanding of the properties and the proximity of the properties. Again, we are talking about the last remaining lots, the last two remaining lots for building at Puddingstone Ridge.
Mr. McClellan, I'm just going to interrupt you. Make sure you tell them what plan we're referencing so the people in the public who may have viewed these plans in the town hall know what you're talking about.
Excellent, will do. We're looking at sheet 1 of 5 from the submitted set of plans entitled Variance Plan and Lot Development Plan for Puddingstone Ridge. It has the most current revision date, I need my glasses here, April 11, 2023. And again, we're talking about the two lots at the end of Beverly Street, lots 45.10 and 45.11. These were originally approved each to have a single-family home on it. They were designed to be closer to the roadway, and as council has indicated, in order to build those two homes, we would require extensive retaining walls to do that. So we're here tonight to talk about a plan to push those units back more towards the middle of the lot that would allow for grading suffices, where we limit the walls to actually just one wall is going to be exceeding the 6 feet, and then the only other walls we have are near the pump station. So essentially,
Mr. McClellan, what is the date of that? What is the date of that?
This plan is 4/11/23.
We have plans here.
2021.
Yeah, no, this is how we have.
8/11/2021.
Yeah, that's something we have. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, the primary change over the revisions has actually been a reduction in the retaining walls. Some of the earlier versions of this plan showed some extensive tiered walls on lot 4510. So there's no significant change to the home positions and driveways, more about the site grading that over the revisions we've revised.
Mr. McClellan, I'm sorry, but you're talking about revised plans submitted that we don't have here. Are you saying the plans you're looking at here now have pushed all these developments back into lot 4509 more?
No, sir. They remain at the back of 4510 and 4511.
So we're lopping off the front portions of those two lots? And moving them back? What are we doing here?
Well,
It's not on our map.
What's the date on the plan?
August,
August 11, 2021.
August of 2021?
There was a submission of September 7, 22.
I'm not sure what plan they're looking at. We don't even have that date on this plan. There's no August of 2021 anywhere on here, so I'm not sure what they're looking at.
7/22/21 version 2.
You have the 7/22 map?
Nor you never received any. I haven't.
Can we make this exhibit 1?
Mr. Willen, may I see the plan that you have?
sure, yeah. We all have the same one, Mr. McClellan.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, I just want to see from what submission this was.
Okay.
There's been several revisions since this. This is the original submission
I
2
think I
years,
understand
years
that,
ago.
but
Okay.
I received it September 7th. Is that one of the iterations?
I believe that Mr. O'Neill had resubmitted them earlier this year, but that's what he's looking for now.
our planning office person back here doesn't miss a beat. She has not received your new plans.
Okay.
Can we make the exhibit 1 kind of thing?
There was first that's unrevised.
Exhibit 1.
Can we amend it in Exhibit 1? Yes.
If you, I can correct my testimony to their plan if you want.
If they put their testimony, then the attorney is going to come back and a plan. So we're not going to be done today.
We're not getting to this.
Yeah. So I figure we'll just go.
Mr. O'Neill, let's try and
All
get
right,
as
look,
much as
that's-
we can done with what you have. And any decision is going to be delayed until we have an opportunity to review the plan, the changes that are reflect. Because Mr. Chadwick has not had an opportunity.
Nor has the.
I have.
Chaz has not had an opportunity either.
And we have it.
Yeah, see, this is the, okay.
I'm going to talk real loud, but referring to Carlin's name, and I'm an attorney, and I represent one of the objectors. My planner, your planner, just told me that they have not had, she went on July 14th, and she did not see these plans. It's going to put us at a distinct disadvantage, since we haven't been able to see these plans in order to provide our
Mr. Heyman, but you'll hear the testimony, correct? And if we carry this meeting,
Carry this meeting, it's not going to be over tonight. No way. We will finish tonight because we need to have our professionals have an opportunity and have you guys have an opportunity to review the plans.
I certainly can.
We're going to go ahead first.
Mr. I can just put my objection on the record. You'll make a decision.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you a question. Who do you represent?
I represent Michael Riskin and Michelle Ruggiero. They are the 50.
And that's it, nobody else? And you'll give us a statement to that effect, that those are your only clients?
My only client.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. McClellan, referring now to the 2021 plan, which everyone seems to have, could you please describe the application that we're presenting this evening?
I would just have to ask to borrow one, and I can put it up. That's it.
7/22.
Thanks, Your mic's not on again, too. Let me just make sure that there isn't any significant, actually, this is the difference.
All right, so refer,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Looking at the July 22nd, 2021 grading plan, I'm referring to sheet 2 of 5, and I'm looking at the grading plan for 4510 and 4511. This plan requires... Sorry. This plan requires one retaining wall on the north side of 4511, and then the rest of that site is able to be graded out, and then the remaining walls that are being proposed are around the access point by Beverly Street, and then on the south side of the property we're showing grading of 4510 onto 4509. Just for the record, primary difference between the plan that we're talking about now of July 22nd of 2021 and the current plan that I was going to testify to is that we have revised the site grading so that we remove all of the grading on 4509. So we do not need to disturb the land on 4509 for the purposes of constructing these two homes. We still have just the one wall on the north side of 4511. That wall, because it's a side yard wall and has a height as much as 8 feet, that's the reason why for the variance for the retaining wall. As you know, your ordinance permits up to 6 feet. In this case, portion of that wall will be 8 feet high and therefore require a variance. Let me share this. That one up.
I want you to mark that. Mark that.
Okay. All right, A1. All right, so the plan of April 11, 2023, I'm going to mark as an exhibit. This is sheet 2 of 5. I'll mark as A1. Again, this is the site grading plan. Shows the grading for lots 4510, 4511. What's similar is the driveway configurations, and the wall that's on the north side. We've shifted the home on 4510 to the north a little bit, and we've modified the grading on the south side of that building. And what we have done is we've eliminated all of the grading that was originally proposed on 4509. So we no longer need to cross the property line to make the grading for these two homes. That's the primary change. I have a report from a GPI, Mr. Holloway, dated February 13, 2023. Starting at the bottom of page 1, there are a few comments itemized. Item number 1 is pointing out a request for some key maps to be added to the plan, as well as a revision to the zone designation. We have no objection to making those changes. Comment 2, the applicant should testify if outside agency approvals are necessary. The answer is yes. If we get approved for the variance to exceed this, the ordinance for steep slopes and for the wall height, the next application we have to make is to the Morris County Soil Conservation District for each of these two properties. And then we would also have to make application to Parsippany Township for building permits. That would include reviews by the construction department, the zoning department, and the township engineering department. The applicant should provide a north-south cross-section of the entire property in question, a cross-section of the proposed walls and profile extending on Beverly to the lot 4510 driveway. And again, we would have no objection to providing that information. It would be, you're seeing it in plan view, but Mr. Holloway is looking for that in a section view. We have no problem to provide that. Item 4 is construction details should be provided for the proposed walls. In this case, these walls, most of these walls will exceed 4 feet in height, which means they have to be designed by a professional engineer. I don't do that kind of work, so that'll be done by a third-party firm. Those wall designs have to be reviewed by the engineering department for further calculations, and then also by the zoning department to make sure they comply. So in this case, we don't have a detail to show because we want to make sure that the applicant knows that these walls have to be designed and not to rely upon a detail. And enlarged.
So that's a construction detail that'll be provided.
After approval?
Did you break my mind? Oh, yes, I still have this one. Yes, we could provide that as a condition of approval if the board should act favorably on the application. An enlarged view of the grading elevation and wall at Beverly Street should be provided to assist in plan reading of these elevations. Again, that's a good comment. The detail on the plan is rather small for a tight area. We will provide a detailed grading plan, and then if there's any comments from the board engineer regarding that plan subsequent to this meeting, we certainly would make the adjustments necessary. Well, I got 3 more to go. Applicant should testify who will own and maintain the proposed walls off Beverly Street. And I assume by off Beverly Street, Mr. Holloway means the walls that are on private property. Oh, you want a microphone? Thank you.
We can share.
Mr. McClellan, you're going to comply, your client's going to comply with the board's engineer's letter?
Yes.
Everything?
Everything.
Okay.
Mr. McCullough, you didn't mention a major soil movement permit.
That was next.
Could you address, please, the soil moving permit?
Yes. Our firm did soil movement calculations for this plan. Were submitted as part of the application. The soil movement activity will result in a net fill or net import of 39,000 yards of material.
Now, does that number that you just quoted reflect the latest plan or the original plan?
That actually reflects the original plan. The latest plan will be less than that, but this calculation is based on the plan that actually graded over onto 4509, so it will be a lesser number than this.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the grading of 4509. How does that impact this on 4510 and 11?
Well, the plan from July of 2021 shows that we're going to take advantage of the common ownership for now and grade over the property line from 4510 to 4509. We've changed that strategy so that, and the soil movement calculations were done based on that grading plan. Now we've come back and we've changed the grading on 4510 so that we do not have grading on 4509. So it's essentially, it's less material being imported. So I don't expect it to be a substantial amount. So we're using the calculations we originally had of 39,000 cubic yards of material to be imported.
What is the route that material will be traveling?
The route that's anticipated would be for that material to come from a project the developer has on Castelline Road, about 6/10 of a mile away. So that project has an export of material. The material, when the construction commences on that project, that material will be brought over to this site. And again, it only travels a very short distance on Castelline Road and Union Hill Road, and then has to drive to the cul-de-sac. So it's a very short route.
But at 39,000, how many truckloads would that be approximately?
It's going to be a lot of truckloads. Of course, they'll be spread out over the course of the project. They'll have to ready the building pad usually before they do any of the house construction. It's about 2,000 trucks total, and will probably take about 2 to 3 months to execute that many deliveries.
So 1,000 trucks a month.
We were looking at about 16 to 20 a week.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. McClellan, there was a request about the start date on this fill from a neighbor.
Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, what was that question?
There was a request by a neighbor about the start date, which we're going to agree to. Mr. McClellan's going to detail that.
Yeah, my understanding is one of the neighbors of the project says that if the project is approved, that the soil movement activity not begin during the summer months. And the applicant has given us permission to testify that he would wait till October to begin, so as not to, so that there would be no delivery of soil material during the summer months.
How does the 39,000 cubic yards compare to the original application when you were going to do a wall?
The original application from 2003, I honestly will tell you, I don't believe there were any soil movement calculations done then. So I have nothing to compare that to.
Engineer's guess, close to, a little less, a little more?
It's going to be more. It would be more than the original.
Because you're smoothing out where the retaining walls are.
And then I know these are exciting numbers, but I'd like to detail the slope disturbances so that the board will understand the variance, the magnitude of the variances we're asking for.
Are we going to do on the plans to be submitted, or the
Current plan.
All right. This is the as-modified plan. Is this more or less?
this would be the April 11th, 23?
This is a, go ahead, Pat.
I'm sorry, Mr. O'Neill. This will be based on the exhibit that we're showing tonight, that's dated April of 2023.
And it's less than the 2021 exhibit.
Yes. Okay, for lot, we need variance relief for each of there's 3 steep slope categories, 15 to 20%, 20% to 25%, and then 25% greater. We broke it down into each lot just so that the board can understand the magnitude on each property. Each of those categories are going to require variance relief, and the magnitudes are as follows. Lot 45.10 in the 15 to 20% category, the ordinance permits a disturbance of up to 35% of the slopes in that category. That means we are allowed to disturb 7,761 square feet of slopes in that category. We are proposing to disturb 20,631 square feet.
3 times the allowed amount?
I'm sorry?
3 times the allowed amount?
Just about.
The percentage, do you have that?
Percentage is, I don't have it, actually I do, it's 93% of that slope category.
Okay.
The 20 to 25% category, the allowable by ordinance is 25%. Based on our calculations, the site contains 5,861, I'm sorry, wrong line, 7,761 square feet of, sorry, it's the big crowding. In the 20 to 25, there we go, that's what we need. 5,861 square feet of that category of slope on the property. We are proposing to disturb 21,200 square feet of that category, and that equates to 90.4% of the slopes in that category. Then we move to the steepest slopes greater than 25%. The ordinance permits us to disturb up to 15%. The plan allows us to disturb 8,874 square feet, and this proposal is proposing to disturb 48,198 square feet. That
Can we
48
stop there for a minute? I mean, if our ordinances allow, what, you're saying 6 or 7 times what is allowed now, disturbances of what you're proposing in your plan.
Mr. Willens, as I pointed out at the beginning, this approval is 20 years old. And
So we're talking,
predates-
this has already been approved?
Predates all of that.
So all of this slope disturbance has been approved?
No, the variances granted for that application allow for disturbance of the whole lot.
Allowing disturbance to what?
Allow for the disturbance of the whole lot. The lot can be constructed if you ever went up to the site and you drove through the older portion of the neighborhood. You would observe houses with rather large retaining walls. That's what's approved. So what we're talking about, what Mr. McClellan is talking about, is deviation on a virgin lot from the requirements of your steep slope ordinances. We're laying out for you, as we view it, when we're changing the site plan here on the site, we have to comply with current slope regulations. So we're telling you what the current disturbance is and what the proposed disturbance is. But I want you to keep in mind, if the board doesn't want to, I'm not threatening anybody with anything, but I just want to remind you that the approval allows for the lot to be developed with pretty extreme retaining walls.
My question is, the original approval was prior to the steep slope ordinance,
That's correct.
and you have, in that original approval, greater percentages than you're testifying now.
Oh, yes. There were really no calculations done for disturbance of slopes because slope disturbance wasn't really considered at the time.
So although these numbers are high, they would be higher under the original plan?
Much higher.
Mr. McCullough, you didn't give the percentile for the 25 and over.
The percentile for 25 and over, 81.5%.
Can I get some clarification? If the applicant is allowed to build on these 2 lots with the retaining walls, what's the motivation for these changes? Why are we seeking them? There must be a reason to see. I mean, it's pretty drastic what you're proposing. So what's in it for the applicant?
We have been before boards on prior lots that have been developed to change the configuration of the lots. Because we found as we've gone through, our client has found, as he's gone through the process, that people want bigger yards. The retaining wall configuration on the older lots causes very small backyards. And frankly, a lot of people don't like giant retaining walls surrounding their house. So it's purely a marketability issue. It helps the applicant with disposing of soils that would otherwise have to be taken a greater distance. So there's that element to it. And we thought it would be a more desirable environment for someone to purchase these houses. It's all about marketability. You're going to hear testimony later about the extensive tree planting program we're going to have here. So it's really changing the configuration of the house to meet better market demand. Now, that's not to say they haven't been able to sell these other houses on retaining walls. They're really doing that every day. But they feel this is a better use of this lot and make it a little more pleasant for the potential purchasers, expand the world of potential purchasers that would look at a property like this.
Mr. O'Neill, 20 years ago, this site was approved by the planning board. Did it have retaining walls then or none?
Yes, it's the configuration you see on the older portion of the development.
Of the current heights?
Those are the
Retaining
wa-
walls are the current heights?
The older retaining walls are of the exact same type that would be placed on this lot.
But, okay.
well, the
So I
height
don't know
of
if I understood the question, Mr.
The
Williams.
height
I'm
of the
sorry.
walls in the original approval was what?
Do you know?
I don't think they
My
were defined.
understanding is they were substantially higher than 8 feet.
Yeah, I've been out to the site. Oh, yes, higher than 8 feet? Oh, absolutely higher than 8 feet.
Don't you think it would be helpful for the board to understand, as you said, we can build this based on our approvals, to know that the retaining walls were much more massive, the grading was going to be probably lot line to lot line.
I will endeavor, when we're done with Mr. McClellan's direct testimony, to get answers to those questions.
I think
for you
that
here
goes to
tonight.
Mr. Kaplan's question. What happens here?
Yeah. You continue.
Can I just say something like LOD too? Because the LOD had nothing to do with constructability. It was a fee calculation. And the original plans had an unrealistic and impossible line to follow. But unfortunately, it wasn't.
Okay, for lot 4511, in the slope category of 15 to 20%, once again, the municipality permits up to 35%. The allowable percentage of disturbance, allowable area of disturbance is 5,731 square feet, and we are proposing to disturb 8,258 square feet. That is 50.4% of the slopes in the 15 to 20% category. In the 20 to 25% category, where we're permitted to disturb up to 25%, the allowable area to be disturbed is 12,138 square feet, and the proposal disturbs 28,378 square feet, and that is 58.5% of the slopes in that category. And then finally, in the steeper slopes of greater than 25%, where we are permitted to, by ordinance, to disturb up to 15%, there's 10,001 square feet of this slope on the property, and we are proposing to disturb 34,027 square feet, which is 51.0% of the slopes in that category. Those are the magnitudes of the steep slope relief we are asking for tonight.
Which lot was that?
That one is 4511.
So, Mr. McClellan, just, I love numbers. So you have different slopes here, and each of those slopes you have amount of disturbance you can have in the soil in that area, right?
Yeah.
If I take the whole site of 4511 and put together your numbers, how much disturbance do we have in lot 4511? What's being proposed here?
Well,
Soil-
the disturbance, give me a moment, I have, for 4511, we are proposing a total disturbance of 70,740 square feet.
Okay, which is a bit over 50% of the total?
60.
70 versus, of the entire property, about 65% of the property.
And you're currently allowed about half that amount?
Mr. Williams, I haven't done that calculation, but roughly.
So I calculated it, I had about 30,000 square feet total, with a proposed 70,000.
And then for 45.11, just for comparison purposes, we are proposing 70,740 square feet total disturbance. So it's about 6,000 less than 4510.
But still, the allowed amount would be about 30,000?
I'm sorry, say that again?
What would be the allowed amount on that lot?
Again, it's being broken down into the categories. It's hard to say what the allowable would be. You know, Mr. Holloway did such a calc. You know, because the disturbance allowance is broken down into the categories.
Could we summarize it by saying the current plan's suggesting about double to, more than double these disturbance levels allowed currently? Would that be safe to say?
It would.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Mr. McClellan, I want to be clear with you.
Microphone. We can't hear you.
So let's go over it again. The approvals in place allow for development of the lot based on the 2003 standards, right?
Yes.
You have not done the calculations because we did not anticipate anyone saying, let me see it with giant retaining walls.
Correct.
But it can be developed with those retaining walls in a manner similar to the other older developed houses.
Yes.
Developed lots. So to say that the disturbance is more than is allowed on this site is not, strictly speaking, accurate, because the disturbance on the site allows for giant retaining walls.
Correct.
So by removing the giant retaining walls, you need to have more soil disturbance?
When we said we're going to remove those retaining walls,
Okay.
it's going to set the standard to 0.
Okay.
So we're giving you testimony as if it was a naked lot.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe that is the correct way to apply for a variance when deviating from an approved plan. You need to incorporate the current standards based on the current condition. So that's what you're hearing.
Okay, so and to Mr. Claplin's point, then because the retaining walls have been a detriment, maybe possibly the other lots, the smaller retaining wall would help marketability of these two lots of the houses built there. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
But just to clarify, you said earlier that you had no issues with marketability with the other houses with the large retaining walls.
Yes, if everyone prefers a large set of retaining walls on a site without
Understand,
a
I'm just
single
making
tree
sure.
on it, we can do that.
I heard
too.
you correctly.
45
Thank you.
He had trouble with it. That's why 45 said he had trouble with it. That's why we got the variances there.
I have no further questions for Mr. McClellan.
Mr. McClellan, can you state that the plan you've come to us this evening is significantly better than the plan of 2003 in terms of aesthetics, neighbor views, things like that?
Yes.
This is a better plan?
Yes.
Now, what about tree?
Tree removal?
Yeah, how does this compare to the last iteration?
The last iteration being 721, the one that's submitted, or 2003.
2003.
Again, I don't have those numbers, but you know, it'll be more trees removed. And again, we have a reforestation plan that one of our witnesses will present as a result of the tree removal.
I
And
can
that-
make the
that's-
representation
You
regarding
have somebody
2003.
that's going to do landscaping?
We will, but 2003, there was no planning schedule
Okay.
approved with that. And you'll see on some of the older lots, there are no trees.
But I saw a memo from the town forester about trees and maybe more trees or whatever, so. that
Yes,
would be
we have an
helpful.
extensive plan, and what's going to end up happening is after Mr. McDonough puts in the extensive tree replanting schedule, we're going to say we accept Mr. Walsh's condition if
Okay.
he wants more trees, as we do with every application.
Okay. Any other questions by the board? Go ahead, Mr. Parikh.
Okay. So the main difference between what we have in front of us, which is 2021 plans, and the new one in 23, is the retaining walls. Is that the main difference?
No, well, the main difference is that on the 2021 plan, we are showing that we're going to disturb soil behind the pump station in order to grade 45.10. This version changes the grading design, slides the house a little bit to the north on 4510, and removes all of that site grading relative to the house construction off of 4509, and we do it without retaining walls. So we have the same walls on this plan as we did on that one, and frankly, they're the same height, the 8-foot wall at the north end, which is the variance we need, and then some walls around the access point, which do not require variances, and then everything else is the same.
And the height of the wall in 2021 plan, north of lot 4.11, was about 14 or 16 feet?
Well, I'll tell you right now because I'm looking at that plan right here. On the July 22 of 2021, that wall in the north end is about this. Its maximum height is 8 feet, and it remains 8 feet on the current plan.
No, but in the plan we have, it was about 14.
I'm not sure where you're seeing 14, Mr. Parikh. Sorry.
You said the wall were very high, and you reduced it down to 8. So what is high mean?
Well,
before?
we didn't reduce the wall, but let's compare it to the ordinance. The ordinance permits a 6-foot high wall in the side yard. And I'm referring to the wall here along the north property line with lot 32, between lot 32 and the dwelling on 4511. The wall starts at a few feet high, and as it comes closer to the road, it gets up to an 8-foot height, and then down again. That wall was designed this way on that plan and this plan, exactly the same. What I am referring to, though, is that on the plan that you have before you, there's site grading down here. There's land disturbance on 4509. The property that council explained was going to be deeded over to the town at some point. Since July of 2021, we've changed the grading plan to pull the footprint in a bit. So we no longer need to disturb the lands on 4509 in order to build on 4510. So it's less soil movement and it's a little less tree removal as well.
So I'm confused as to what changed actually. In 2021 plan, in 411, lot 411, you did not have much of a steep slope disturbance. I mean, I look at it here, 9%, 16%, 13%, 5%, much less than what you just said today. So what changed? Say 3 or 5?
Is there a wall in the back that's being removed because you're pushing the slope further out?
Now our limited disturbance is about the same location as it was on this plan. So first off, all of the slope disturbances that are on 4509, the bottom one would be eliminated. Because again, those slope disturbances where we're at 61%, 69%, and 55% is no longer part of the application because that disturbance has been removed.
I'm talking about 411, the first one. Right there, the last column.
We just need a moment here.
No, it's right down here. This is
The slope analysis that's on the July 22nd of 2021 plan appears to be a carryover from when we were doing the subdivision. we made the lots 4510 and 4511 larger. 4509 was much smaller. And when you make the lot larger but you don't disturb it, the percentages are going down. So the slope analysis that is on the July 22nd plan of 2021, again, is no longer, it looks to me like it's a carryover from the planning board application. And this is a more accurate representation of the slopes. As I see, we have an area here of almost 500,000.
All right, thanks.
Any other questions by the board?
Soil movement.
Excuse me. Mr. Reddy, you have a question?
Soil movement is within this premises, or are you bringing from outside?
Can't hear, I'm sorry.
Soil movement will be done within these properties, or are we moving from outside the town?
He's asking if the soil's going to be imported from outside, how it's going to move around the property.
The soil, again, will be imported from a property off of Castelline Road, be trucked down to the cul-de-sac, and there is a working pad on that site as we speak, and of course there'll be tree clearing, and then there'll be soil placement as the trees are cleared moving back.
Not from outside the town, right?
The
Caster
line is over the Denville line. It's right on the line with Denville.
Within the premises.
Yeah. 0.6 of a mile there.
Dave, you okay down there? Questions? Chaz, any
I have one question.
Go right ahead.
I just wanted to ask if the fire department has reviewed this plan at all.
They have, actually. I have an email from them from the review of the 2021 plan. They had no comments or questions. I have a copy of that email if the board would like it.
Okay.
But
Get that
yes,
copy
I believe so, but I'll show you.
No further questions? No, I don't have that.
The email was from August 25 of 2021, sent to Ms. Jolie. And
Well, you can supply us with a copy
because,
of that, okay?
absolutely.
Mr. O'Neill?
I will.
At some point, obviously, we can't do that tonight.
Actually, I
Please
can't.
supply us.
I do have one question. Did you ever consider making the driveways shorter, moving the houses closer to the end of the existing cul-de-sac?
That brings us back to where we started. As we bring the houses closer, one of the real detriments when you get near the cul-de-sac is you actually have to turn the houses in order for them to physically fit, because we have small frontages on these properties. So one thing we wanted to do was get back far enough so the houses could turn and face the street, more traditional sense. And then, but we felt we have to go further than that in order to allow the room for grading so that we can eliminate the majority of the walls. That was really our primary objective.
You're saying the lots are steeper as you get closer to the cul-de-sac where it currently ends?
The contours almost run sort of parallel to Beverly, so the further back you go, the more, and because the properties diverge, you get more room to move the material around. Otherwise, as you get closer to the road, you get wedged in, and that's where we get stuck with having to do the significant retaining walls.
Well, that 4511 does come to a wedge down there near Beverly Road by definition, so that'll be clear. But there's still plenty of room, to Mr. Chadwick's point, to reposition lower, and I think that's a valid question. But anyway, that's not for tonight, I guess.
The other thing, you had an environmentalist evaluate the site, and he had made a bunch of recommendations. Did you consider any of those in this redesign?
I'm sorry, who wrote which letter?
Your client had an environmental assessment done by, I think it was EcoScience, it's been so long.
Ecoline, yeah.
And there was a number of recommendations that they had in that report. It appears that the latest reiteration of your plan does take those into consideration, meaning cutting down on the overall disturbance of the site, but
Yeah, we did take those into account, again, pulling away from lot 4509 was a significant one. We also, these properties, and I think this is important to mention too, these properties are going to be subject to the new stormwater management rules that came out on Monday. When we get to the lot development plan, again, assuming the board approves this application and we have to file a detailed plan with the engineering department, we will have incorporated into that a very detailed stormwater management design that complies with the regulations that just came out this week.
is that going to require more clearing, or are you going to put everything underground?
I'm sorry.
Is that going to require more clearing to comply with those regulations?
No, we believe we can comply with those regulations with this plan.
Did you pull back 4501 also?
4501?
You pulled back 09, right?
Yeah, well, 09 is the property that has the sanitary pump station, and there is, again, we had a significant amount of grading shown
on 09.
400 or 500 feet down onto 09, so that was...
What about 01? Because that's the recommendation from this environmental company also.
Can I just have a moment?
I haven't been up there.
Council's reminded me that the report that was prepared by Equal Sciences was based on the plan, the first attempt to move the houses back, which was a subdivision. In that plan, lot 4509 got a lot smaller, and 4510 and 4511 got a lot bigger because it took the rear piece.
The bottom line is it's not the application.
It's not the application.
And when you redesigned this lot to go to the old subdivision configuration, you incorporated the appropriate changes from the Equal Sciences report.
Correct.
That's it.
Any other questions?
So we're not sure how this got into the record.
Any other questions by the board? Does the attorney have any questions for this witness?
I'm going to go last, so other people are going to go the
Well, I prefer you to go first. Yeah. Because maybe we can dispense with some questions.
I don't think it's on.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thanks. Ronald S. Heyman, Heyman & Fletcher, on behalf of Mike Riskin and Michelle Ruggiero. They're at 50 Long Ridge Road. So, I don't know, in the notice that I saw, it talked about the retaining wall being 14 and a half feet. That was the original notice that was published. Has that now been reduced by the new plans that you are speaking about tonight?
It's reduced to 8 feet by this plan.
And was that the original wall height? Was it 14, is it in the original plans? Was that the original height of the wall? Do you know?
You're going back to the subdivision plan, yes.
Okay. Your firm didn't prepare the 2003 subdivision plans, am I correct?
I'm sorry, sir.
Your firm did not prepare the 2003 subdivision plans?
No.
Okay. You had a chance to review those in preparation of the ones that you designed for 2021?
Yes.
Okay. I know you testified about the marketability of the property, but that's not in your expertise, am I correct?
Correct.
The other homes, I think somebody asked on the council, on the board, they've sold in this area, correct?
Yes.
You talked a little bit about the removal of soil from 4509. Is that the biggest change that you're making in the plans before I get into the steep slope from what was done in 2021?
That's the primary change, yes.
And why is that relevant? What what makes that important in this process?
Well, what makes it important is that, again, it eliminates a significant amount of grading on 4509, which is not, we're not here to propose any development on 4509. So therefore, it's less disturbance, so it's less steep slope disturbance, and it's less tree removal.
There'll be less disturbance in 4509.
We're looking at it as one project. We recognize it's two homes, but in the overall impact of the project, it's less disturbance.
But the disturbance will be on 4509, am I
Yes.
correct? And that's the pump station lot.
That's the pump station lot.
Which is also the lot you're deeding to the community if they're willing to accept it as part of Green Acres, I'm guessing?
Eventually, yes.
So it really has no impact with regard to these two homes, does it?
Well, it does in the sense that the disturbance is created for the construction of the home. So we've changed, the lot line is invisible in the field, but the disturbance will be there. So we've been able to pull that disturbance back.
Okay, are you aware that the Parsippany Township didn't enact the steep slope part of their ordinance until 2019?
Am I aware that that's when they enacted it?
Yes.
I don't know the exact date, I'm sorry.
Well, then let's go back. As far as the 2003 subdivision approval was concerned, there was no steep slope ordinance that had to be concerned by the planning board at that time, correct?
That's to my knowledge, yes.
It was a design waiver, correct?
I don't even know if it was a waiver.
As Mr. McClellan indicated, he did not handle that application.
He didn't know if it was or wasn't. Is that, Ms. O'Neill, is that what you said?
Mr. McClellan did not handle that application.
Okay.
I did not handle that
Okay.
application. So
Do you have
the
a-
testimony then, we do not know.
Okay. Do you have your knowledge of reviewing the 2003 resolutions and the plans of 2003, whether or not that was a design waiver?
We're dealing with this application.
I know, but I want to get into steep slopes, so I need to know whether or not you can answer that. Can you answer
Well, let's
that?
get into steep slopes. We're dealing with the current standards for steep slopes, so let's talk about it. Who cares what happened in 2003? It wasn't applicable.
All right, so when you were just giving some of the numbers on the steep slope, were those numbers for were those numbers for lot 4509 numbers that you were giving? I believe the gentleman at the end, one of the board members, were asking you some questions about the steep slope. Were they for the 4509 lot, or were they for 4510 or 4511?
The two summaries were for 45.10 and 45.11.
Would you agree with me that the disturbed area in lot 45.10 is closer to 89,000 square feet, based upon the numbers that you gave?
The numbers I gave are accurate, so if they add up to that, then that's the number.
That wasn't the number you gave. That's why I'm asking you if you would agree with me that it's closer to 89,000.
Yeah, I didn't make that calculation. I did the calculations in accordance with the ordinance.
Okay. And the total you indicate on 4511 is 70,740 square feet?
Yes, yes.
Right. And would you agree that those are significant steep slope requests? The variants are significant requests as far as the steep slope ordinance is concerned? Can you testify to that?
Will you repeat the question, please?
I said, in your opinion, as an engineer, would you agree that those are significant steep slope requests that you're making as far as the variance requests are concerned?
That's really not an appropriate answer for an engineer. I think you want to ask the planner that question.
That's fine. If he can't answer that, that's okay. You indicated that removing more trees in this area is a better plan as part of your testimony. Can you explain that? How would that be a better plan?
We did not testify.
I believe I said that.
I wrote a note down. So, did you testify to that?
I believe I said rhetorically, if the board wanted to see the 2003 plan, which contained the retaining walls and no trees, that would be the plan that they would see.
That would be a better
No one
plan.
referred to it as a better plan. We do not think it is a better plan, which is why we have gone to all the trouble tonight.
All right, but you do agree with me that there would never have been any prior approval of steep slope approvals at this site before we're here tonight, correct?
On this particular lot, these lots?
These two lots.
On other lots, yes.
I have nothing further, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I'm going to leave this up front here.
Members of the public, as you just heard the attorney, he came up here and he asked questions. And I'm going to give the members of the public an opportunity now to come up and ask questions of the witness on the testimony given this evening, and I think that's pretty clear, okay? Questions of the witness on testimony tonight. We do not entertain any statements at this point. The applicant must complete his application, and then I will give members of the public an opportunity to come up, be sworn in, and make a statement if they so please. I'm just going to ask one other thing. If the first person comes up and asks a question, you know, is the sky blue? I don't want to hear any more questions, is the sky blue, okay? So pay attention to what's being asked, because I will stop you if you ask the same question that was previously answered. Because Mr. McClellan is an experienced professional. He's not going to change his answer, okay? Now, unfortunately, I don't have my number system here tonight, so we're just going to have to make a line and, you know, or just come up and you have to give your name and address before you ask the question. Thank you. Can't hear you.
It's not working. It's not working.
Maybe you have to get right up on top of it.
Hello. Yes. So board, we have
What's your
group-
name and address,
oh,
please?
John Ein, 33 Long Ridge Road.
And how do you spell your last name?
IHNE. Some of the members of the public here are going to be some of the members of the public are going to be referencing an exhibit of some pictures. We would like to.
Not now.
Not now.
Sir. I said the only thing you can do right now is ask questions.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
To him, McClellan.
Yes. Okay, so Mr. McClellan, you referenced that these new plans are better for who again? Can you please explain that? Who are these plans better for?
I believe I said that.
Who said that, sir? Sorry.
So
Yeah.
what's the,
So is it fair to say that these plans are essentially trading large retaining walls for a larger disturbance compared to the 2003 application?
No.
No. So in 2003, the application has similar amounts of dirt being brought in, or is it expected that if that application continued, the amount of dirt would be similar to what you have testified to tonight?
The 2003 plan contains significant disturbance of steep slopes with the addition of retaining walls.
Can I interrupt a second? I thought we had earlier tonight, Mr. McCullough was going to make a comparison of the April 23 plan and the approved plan back in 2003 to show what the basic differences are.
So he will provide that?
At this juncture, we don't know.
Do not have that. Okay, that makes sense.
But you heard from Mr. O'Neill, his statement was that the lots could be cleared from lot line to lot line.
Without a variance for the steep slopes
There was no
adjustment.
rules then on that.
So they could, in essence, remove the entire side of the mountain because of a rule that
I'm
was
saying
enacted?
to you, I haven't seen the 2003
Okay.
plan or the comparison. I'm just repeating what Mr. O'Neill said. His knowledge, one, the steep slope regulations did not exist.
Yes, sir.
And second, the plan in terms of how it was going to be implemented would result in significant clearing. We don't know whether this plan has more
or less.
Does the retaining wall aspect help?
Okay.
It
so
certainly helps.
Any questions related to 2003 cannot be asked today in
We
comparison,
don't
because
have
there's
them.
no answer.
We don't have it.
No, that's not accurate. You can ask questions on 2003.
How many, so the plans that I saw in the 2003 sewer pumping station application had the houses, to your point, much closer to the road. When I look at Beverly and Violet Street, does the new plans, do those homes fit into the aesthetics of the remaining share or the does that fit into the development that's currently there, the new plans, compared to the old plans? What fits into that development? And if that's a question for the planner, I can most certainly ask you at the time.
It's a question for the planner, but we will have an answer for that.
Okay, so you will have an answer for that. If the 2003 plans were to be approved, and not approved, but acted on, approximately, in your best guess, what percentage of tree increase do we have here removal in this case? Because that's the question.
If the plan for 2003 were built today, if you stay within the limit of disturbance area, we don't have that number.
Sure.
But if the proposal would be to build something similar to this, and again, would go through the municipal process for permitting, and while before steep slope ordinances, the town would rely upon stormwater management and soil erosion measures to mitigate those changes. So it's very possible the plan could have been this, something more, something less. But today, it's a better time to build a plan like this because there's more consideration for the impact to the property. And again, you'll hear testimony that will mitigate, mitigate the tree removal. And again, we will be responsible for a very comprehensive stormwater plan when we get to the engineering department, and will be subject to some very stringent rules by the Forest County Soil Conservation District. So those oversights and those techniques incorporated into this plan make this plan work.
Okay, no further questions.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next resident.
Nicholas Homiak from Lake Hiawatha.
How do you spell
Street
your last
address?
name?
Say again?
Address?
26 Oneida Avenue.
And how do you spell your last name, sir?
Homyak, Homyak.
Thank you.
Of all the three lots, which lot has the least amount of steep slopes? And the least amount of groundwater recharge?
I don't understand that question,
Do you
sorry.
understand what groundwater recharge is?
I do.
The property has the character of groundwater recharge, all three of these properties.
Well, the current configuration and regulations being dealt with by this board does not contain elements of groundwater recharge, so we have not done that calculation, and it is not applicable here before the board.
Are you familiar with non-structural storm water strategies?
I am.
And does this plan include any non-structural stormwater strategies?
This plan does not, but this is one piece of the puzzle. I've testified, and I'll repeat, that when we go, if we do get approval at this level, the next step requires us a lot development plan for each of the two building lots that get reviewed by the engineering department. Those reviews are going to require that we do the stormwater management design, which is going to be flow reduction, water quality enhancement, and groundwater recharge. And but those are not done here because it's too early in the process. We don't want to go on site. We don't want to go through that analysis and then have it change. This board's interest is in the variances. Our audience for that will be the engineering department in Parsippany, and we have not made that step yet because we have to get past the board first.
All right, of all these three lots, how many lots have the trees been removed already?
There are trees removed within the original disturbance area. So the applications were filed for tree removal and some soil movement for that portion of the property. But that's as far as that can go now, because that's what was allowable by the 2003 plan.
And which block lot would that,
45.10 and 4511. 4509 is the pump station. So when you stand in the cul-de-sac and you see the little driveway down, that little sliver there, that's 4509. That's been there, as you probably know, since the project began.
so the trees were taken from 4509 and not 4510 and 11? Is that what you're saying?
No, the trees that you're referring to in the area of disturbance currently were on 4510 and 4511.
All right, would you think that the tree removals go hand in hand with non-structural stormwater strategies? If you take the vegetation and disturb the soil, wouldn't that be an opposite of non-structural stormwater?
It's a function of construction, and the non-structural best management practices we have to deploy and design are meant to mitigate and enhance the groundwater recharge and the water quality and the quantity of water as well.
Are you counting lawns? I assume that a lot of these forests that are going to be removed are going to be replaced by lawns.
I'm not sure I agree with that. Yeah, there's a mitigation plan, a tree plan that has not been presented yet, and that you might want to see that. There's a significant tree planting proposed as part of this application.
All right, but what's the other question I have here? Where is it? Would this board allow me to present, when you hear square feet to a layman?
No.
All right.
No presentations. Come on, Nick, you know, you've been through a number of meetings.
All right. So you are familiar with non-structural storm water components?
Intimately.
But trees have already been removed.
And they'll be considered as part of the overall plan, absolutely.
Would you agree that older trees are a lot better for the biodiversity and the character of the pudding stone heights than new trees?
That
and
is beyond Mr. McClellan's expertise.
All right. And was there any inventory done of the tree removal, of the species and the age, so there can be some type of compatible replacement?
There will be testimony about a replacement plan coming up with our next witness.
Is there any information on the flora of the plant life or anything that existed with the trees?
If I told you now, it would ruin the surprise.
Well, there's nothing there, in other words, right? All right. And lastly, are you familiar with the reasons, as I'll say the creed of life, of why Pudding Stone Heights was formed and why people live on Pudding Stone Heights?
Can't say I am, I'm sorry.
Well, I can give you a copy of the creed if you like, or
Why
better
don't we
yet,
wait
you
for
can
the
get it from
comment
them.
section and you can talk about
But
it.
I'll submit it at the right time, correct?
Yes.
All right.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so that's all the questions I have.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Chris Venezia. It's Venezia, and I live at 37 High Ridge Road. So I thank you for letting me have this opportunity to ask some questions. I really feel bad for you because you're not prepared because the plans you're talking about are not the right ones, but As a result of that, everybody else is confused and not prepared as well, so I hope you can bear with me, but I have a few questions.
Well, don't feel too bad, because we're all talking about the same plans that are on file with the township. So,
That's not what they have, and that's not what the community has. So,
That's your question.
You know, I looked at the plans, and it looks to me like the tiered wall on the plans that I looked at was 25 feet high. Is your testimony now that that wall is no longer there on, I think it was 4509?
Which plans were you looking at?
The ones that the town has in front of them, which we obtained through the OPRA requirements.
The walls you're referring to are necessary for the protection of the pump station. They're still proposed. They would be proposed in any scenario on this because they're a result of the elevation of the pump station relative to the property next door.
So
they're tiered though, so that again, we're not asking for any kind of variance relief. We have the room to tier those so that we stay within the ordinance guidelines for that section. But those are meant to protect the soil movement on the pump station property.
So each of the 4 tiers will only be 6 feet high?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's in effect a 24-foot high structure.
It's a 24-foot high elevation change.
Okay, thank you. Again, it's kind of hard. So can you tell us how long the wall is at 4511? You said it's 8 feet tall, but you didn't indicate
Sure.
how long that is.
I have to estimate it, but I can do that for you. That wall will be about 200 feet long from one end to the other. Not 200 feet, 8 feet high. Again, it starts lower, and as you get to the center where it hits, it's 8 feet. But the entire wall, 200 feet.
Now, you also said that there would, I believe I heard you say that there would be no grading on 4509 where the pump station is.
For the purposes of building the house.
Okay, but there ultimately has to be grading there, correct?
There's a little grading out at near Beverly Street cul-de-sac because we have to continue the existing walls that are there. The walls that are built there were built and stopped, near the property line, recognizing that they were going to need to be coordinated with the access that's needed to get to that property. So now is the time to finish those walls. So those walls, and that's why 4509 is part of the application, but we're not proposing to build anything on it except to continue those walls.
And how long are those walls?
Lengthwise, probably about the same as on the north side of the property.
Except there's 4 of them, so whatever.
Yep. Right.
Okay. So if there's no grade in that pump station lot you plan to deed over to the town, right now it's basically a cliff that has silt fence at the bottom and there's rills all through it through the storm. So are you planning to give that to the town the way it is so the town has that liability, or are you going to fix that before it's handed over to the town?
We're aware of that situation you're describing, and actually the applicant is in conversations with the Conservation District now to fix it and to prevent any further erosion. It's a challenge because it's in the middle of construction. When the job is complete and there's a proper stormwater system in, and the properties are landscaped and the trees are planted, that will restore a better drainage system out there. Because you're right, because right now you're getting some, from these storms that we're having and soils that are bare, you're getting some erosion down there that will be taken care of. And again, that's part of the reason why I mentioned here that we have to get a specific permit from Soil Conservation District for these 2 lots because of the increase in the disturbance from the original, and also recognizing that there are going to need to be good measures put in here to protect the surrounding properties.
Now, I don't know the answer to this, but do you know, as an engineer, does the 20-foot side yard setback include the wall? Is the wall considered a structure that requires that 20-foot setback?
It does not.
Okay. You also indicated that there's no details in the current plans, whether the latest plans that nobody seems to have, or the previous ones, regarding how the wall will be built, kind of, soil properties, how the wall is going to be built, design criteria, stormwater. That's all to come later, correct?
It is to come later, because what we need first is permission, if the board approves, to disturb this area. Then our next burden, or our next assignment, is to prepare those designs, and I'm confident in the stormwater, because that's my area of expertise, that I can design it, but it's going to be subject to the town's review and the Conservation District's review, and if for some reason they don't like it, we're going to have to make the changes. But yeah, those are the next step of the process.
Well, I think you need to be clear here, Mr. McClellan, that these reviews are based upon certain standards. It's not how they feel that day.
Correct.
And that I understand. But what I'm having a hard time understanding is you're asking this board and you're asking the community, I guess, their input on something that you're not providing details for. So it'd be like me asking you as an engineer to sign something without providing you the details to review, which is something you would never do, I'm sure. So why would we have to, now why do we have a different standard for the board where they would have to even think about approving something without those details?
This is the same standard applied for every application considered by both this and the planning board. This is the way it's done. They approve the site plan, it gets sent to the engineer for confirmation of the engineering standards that I mentioned. It's always done in that order. It is always done that way. Every application.
So it seems that the board has to make a decision on whether these walls would jeopardize public safety and the safety of the homeowner without having those details.
Excuse me, where's your question?
I'm
You're
asking questions.
testifying, okay? Please, please, follow the rules. We understand you've got concerns. You'll have an opportunity to express all those concerns, but not now.
So I noticed that the houses, and you testified that the houses have changed orientation. If you're moving the house from where the short side of the house is on the slope, and you're moving it to the long side of the house is on the slope, aren't you increasing the need for retaining walls and bringing in fill?
We've designed the property in accordance with the direction we've got, and we do not need the retaining walls.
Except for
the ones that I've stated.
And then typically in a retaining wall, you would have drainage to relieve that hydrostatic pressure. Is it your thought that those drainage pipes coming out of the retaining wall, which is 10 feet away from that house, roughly, would not flood that house's basement or yard?
Those drains would not be discharging in proximity of that house. We're aware of a head wall north of our property. That's the first thing we take care of. We don't want that water going at the houses or at the wall. So we have to pick that up in a drain, curtain drain. So that'll be one. Two, the water behind the wall will be handled by way of a drain like we've done on other projects. We don't discharge them to grade because you don't know over time how often they're going to run. So we'll control those, and we'll discharge those in a more appropriate way in a location that does not impact the homes or adjacent properties.
So if you discharge in one location, doesn't that concentrate the flow and increase the erosion?
Well, there are ways to spread the flow out. There's energy dissipators that we can do. There's a lot of things we can do. And we'll have to do.
And then, and I know you haven't provided details, but what protects the public from falling off a 6-foot wall, an 8-foot wall, a 14-foot wall? What is the protection for
that? The walls are designed in accordance with the construction standards of the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills. Walls over certain heights require fences. We're not providing these fences because we're not tripping into that area. Is someone going to fall off a 6-foot wall? I don't know.
That
It's a
wasn't
little
part of his
speculative,
testimony
but
anyway, so.
I mean, you need
especially
a
when it's not by a house.
I know it's a statement, but you need a rail on your deck if it's over 3 feet tall, right? So,
We designed this in accordance with standards adopted by the Township of Parsippany-Troy Hills.
all right, so what is the benefit, I mean, you talked about this as a benefit to the homeowners to have this wall. What is the benefit of the wall to the homeowner?
What is the what?
The benefit of the wall to the homeowner who buys that piece of property?
The benefit of what wall?
The wall that you're proposing, what is the
The one,
benefit?
the wall at the north end?
Yes.
Well, I don't know that as an engineer, I'm not proposing it as a benefit or a detriment. I'm proposing it as a strategy to construct the property. I'm inclined to want to keep those to a minimum, and that's what we've done.
As an engineer, would you say it's reasonable that someone who owned the retaining wall of 6 feet height would have to do some kind of periodic inspection to make sure there's no movement or structural integrity issues?
That wasn't part of his testimony either. I'm sorry. He didn't.
Yeah, you're giving them these what-ifs, and, it could be just a matter of a simple planting on the edge of the wall that would prevent someone from falling over. There's a lot of remedies that can be done. When we get the final product, we talk to the township forester. He'll make recommendations. Am I speaking out of turn, or what I'm saying makes sense, Mr. McWell?
Makes sense. Chairman.
Okay? Does that answer your question with regard to the wall?
A
Because you're
little
kind of
bit. I
beating
mean,
a
they're
dead horse
public
at this
safety
point.
questions, and I thought the zoning
Yeah.
board,
We
I'm trying not to ask the zoning board.
And they're going to provide a wall that's going to be in compliance with the township rules and regulations. What more can we say?
The construction code of the state of New Jersey requires fencing and/or safety bars on top of walls that are in proximity to, I forget the language exactly, but where pedestrians might walk. It's the construction department that makes that call.
Sir, if you get me an 8x10 of that, I'll autograph it for you, okay? Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. I heard what you said about the trucks, 2,000 trucks. That sounds fairly accurate. When you haul the trees off, do you know how many more trucks that'll be to haul off all those trees that are cleared?
I don't. I didn't do that.
Probably an equal amount, maybe?
Don't know.
And, okay, that's testimony, so I won't ask that. You said you're going to get this soil from a project on Castor Line Road. Has that soil been tested to determine if it's clean fill?
It's not this project, is it? Do I have to answer
There's a sort of testing. We're only moving clean fill. That'll be assured.
How do you know it's clean fill?
We'll test it.
It's being tested? Okay. And those results will be available at some later date, before soil is moved?
No, it'll be done as part of the process in compliance with the soil permit regulations.
Right, but it's going to be provided to somebody, the engineer, town engineer, or something.
We're going to comply with the regulations.
Mr. O'Neill,
of
will all
Parsippany.
these things be available in the township engineer's office?
As they're done eventually, as all documents are.
You're free to go to the township engineer's office anytime and review whatever documentation they have.
I'm sorry for just pausing, but there was a lot that changed tonight.
Can we move on?
Look, my hesitation is because things changed tonight. That wasn't to nobody's plan.
You're up here to ask questions.
And I asked...
Please continue to ask a question or sit down.
All right.
Okay? It's simple. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, this is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Okay? And I am the chairman here, and unfortunately, I have to follow the rules. And all I'm asking you guys to do is follow the rules. Simple as that. You want to take pictures of me? Fine. Okay? But I'm going to continue to run this meeting in the way it's supposed to be run, because it's a quasi-judicial proceeding. We have sworn testimony, and then we will have sworn testimony from members of the public, okay? Simple as that. And I'm going to cut you off if you're asking questions that are either off-topic or you keep asking the same question over and over again.
Have I asked the same question?
Yes, you
already?
have. Proceed. You have any more questions?
I have one more question.
Fine.
Is this more about disposing of 32,000 cubic yards of soil from the Casterline project, or the need to have it at this site?
This is about the need at this site.
Okay. I thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll let the next
Next.
person speak.
Good evening. My name's Diana Buffum. I live at 51 Long Ridge Road. I'm a resident of the Puddingstone Heights community. And I'm here, I'm not an engineer. I've never done this before. So bear with me. I'm going to try and follow the rules, sir. I'm sure you'll tell me when I don't.
Can you repeat your name, please?
Diana Buffum. Would you like me to spell it?
Please. Yes.
B as in boy, U, F as in Frank, F as in Frank, U, M as in Mary.
Thank you.
Okay. So thanks for letting me ask a few questions. I have to admit I'm a little confused. We were talking about the 2021 plans. Those are the ones that you all have, the ones that we saw through the open records request. We're talking about 2003, which was 20 years ago. We're talking about what's up here on the board. There's two versions, the 21 and the 23 plans. So bear with me if I just need a little clarification. And my question specifically, the first one I want to ask about is about the limits of disturbance. In the records that I've seen, there was a table that said, here's the approved limits of disturbance for each of the three lots. And then there was another column that said proposed limits of disturbance and increased limits of disturbance for each one of those. I think you referred to that table earlier. Is that right, sir?
Yes.
Okay. So my numbers that I saw are a little bit different from yours, but it's really not a big difference. And since I think in terms of, I don't know how many square feet there are, you know, how to translate this stuff, I think of in acres. So do you want to talk about 4509, or should we not talk about that because it'll drag things on and you don't want to muddy the waters? Or should we just talk about the two that you want to talk about?
That's up to you.
But, okay, so my question is, on 4509, the approved limits of disturbance were around 25,000 square feet, right? Do I have that right?
I presume so, yeah.
Okay.
No,
And
hold on a second.
Okay, I'll wait.
I mean, would
Don't
it be
presume
better if
so.
Mr.
Answer the question.
McLaughlin prepared a new, maybe spreadsheet of all these items? Because we don't have that here right now.
You do have it on the 2021 plan.
Yeah, there's a slope disturbance table on the 2021 plan. There's a slope disturbance table on the 2023 plan.
Which is different.
They're a little different, yes.
Okay.
She's asking about.
And I'm asking about
You don't
limits
have
of
23.
disturbance.
You don't have 23, right?
Absolutely
You have
not, sir.
21.
I have what you have.
You have what does.
So
Well,
she's asking about.
rather than go through a lot of testimony about this, would it be better if we just provided everybody, you know, with a new report? And then if there's any questions at that point. Does that make any sense or not?
Well, I mean,
Let me interrupt.
it
one
would,
second.
yeah.
What we're missing is a 2003 plan
We're missing, yeah.
that it can be used and
Missing
developed.
2003 plan? Or she's asking about the
I
2021
know,
plan.
but in order to measure the improvement of the plan, that's what you're.
I'm not
here
asking
before the
about that,
board.
sir.
No, she's, if
You're
if
not?
I may
No,
suggest.
I'm just
All right,
asking
Chairman.
about,
Why don't you
Can we
continue?
Misunderstood.
let her
your limits
ask
of
her question?
disturbance were X, your proposed is Y, and the difference is Z. That's really what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at, originally approved, I don't know when it was approved. Was it approved in 2003? Was it approved in some other thing that I don't know? I'm just referring to what I saw when I looked at the plans in the office.
And I think you're asking the same thing the board is asking for, though, is a comparison between the disturbances on the original subdivision approval back in 2003, and then compare that to the disturbances on the plan tonight.
But
Because
Mr. McClellan.
No, what I'm referring to-
My understanding, Mr. McClellan, in 2003, there were no approved disturbance levels established. Is that correct?
No, that was just slope, I thought.
Pardon?
I believe that just was referring to slope,
There were
not
clearing limits on that plan,
clearing.
correct?
Yeah, there are clearing limits on the
Which
plan.
will
Clearance
establish,
limits, but not the slope limits, which we're talking about difference here.
Right.
I got if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Can I make a suggestion? Let this lady ask her question in full, and then we'll decide how we want to handle
Okay, fine.
Thank you. Okay, so the originally approved limits of disturbance on 4509 were around 25,000 square feet, is that correct? Which is about half an acre?
She's talking about 2003.
I'm talking about the chart that was on the plan that I saw that was dated 2021.
That plan has not been approved. That's a proposal.
I'm
If I
asking
may
about
just
what
have
was originally, there was a table there that said approved lot, limits of disturbance, and there was a line on the graph, on the map, that said, over here is the original approved limit of disturbance, and over there is the new proposed limit of disturbance. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Right, right there.
Yeah, on sheet 4 of 5.
I'll take your word for it, sir.
And the approved LOD column
Yep.
is it's a scaled measurement of the limit of disturbance that was on the 2003 plan. Because in 2003, they drew a disturbance line but never calculated it. We trace it today, we calculate it, estimate it. That's where these numbers come from. So,
Okay.
Let's go.
So is it, based on what you just said, is it accurate to say that the approved limits of disturbance, as you calculated them, were around 25,000 square feet?
For 4509.
For 4509.
Yes,
Okay.
25,000.
Since I can't think in square feet, I think in acres.
About a little bit more than a half acre.
A little bit more than a half an acre. Thank you, sir. Okay, and the proposed limits of disturbance are around 54,000 square feet
On this plan, yes.
on this proposed, that you're proposing now?
Yeah, which, again, I just want to say, that's the one aspect that's changed. It's lower now.
Okay, so it's not 53,000. What are you proposing now?
We've taken all of the disturbance off of that property, so the only disturbance there is what's already done for the pump station.
Okay, so let's not talk about 4509. Let's talk about the other two, the ones where you want to build the houses, okay? 4510, the approved limits of disturbance was around 21,000 square feet,
Yes,
and that's around half an acre, give or take?
that's about a half acre.
Okay. Your proposing limits of disturbance now are around 95,000 square feet?
On the old plan and on the new plan, 76,490 square feet.
Okay, my math, I don't think that fast, but the 70-some is about how many acres?
Acre and a half, 43, about an acre and a half, maybe.
An acre and a half. Okay.
Little more.
So the increase is around 50,000 square feet?
55,000. On the current plan, 55,000.
So you're going from 21,000 square feet of disturbance to 55,000 of an increase of 55,000. You are going from 21 to 77. Okay, I got the right numbers
You got
this
it
time?
right. Yep.
Thank you for bearing with me. I apologize. Like I
Thank
said,
you
it's
for
the
bearing
first
with
time
us.
I've done this.
You were fine, you were fine. Don't apologize.
Okay, so, and that is more than 3 times The increase that you're asking for, you're asking for to disturb 3 times as much property as you originally asked for. Do I have that right?
You do.
Okay. Let's talk about 4511. Originally, we were around 15,000 square feet,
Yes?
which is about a third of an acre, give or take.
You're pretty good at that.
Well, I did my homework.
Oh, good.
Okay. The proposed limits of disturbance are now 80,000 square feet on 4511?
Well, they were 80,000 on the July of 21 plan.
Yeah.
In the current plan, it's now 70,740.
Okay, so you brought it down a little bit, but it's still an acre and a half rather than a third of an acre that you're asking for. Okay, so altogether, what you originally had approval to disturb, forget 4509, we're complicating things. For 4510 and 4511 was less than an acre of disturbance, and now you're asking to disturb 3.5? No, more than that. How much are you asking to disturb now?
70,740 and 76,490.
Okay, help me with the math, please. What's the total?
147,230.
And that's about little 3.5, 4?
About 3.5 acres
Okay,
total.
so you're proposing to go from disturbing less than an acre to almost 4 acres. Do I have that right?
When you compare it to the 2003 plan.
Which I guess that's what you've been asking us to compare.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah.
Okay, so when we talk about increasing limits of disturbance, you're saying, okay, I have this land, I'm gonna do things to almost now 4 acres of this as opposed to less than an acre. And what is it that you're proposing? How do you disturb it?
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off there because he's already testified to this extensively. And to answer your question, we are not going to redo the testimony.
I'm sorry, I thought when are you going to
just-
talk about,
Did
when are
you
you going to
just
talk
ask
about
what
what
we're
you do to
doing?
the land?
What we're doing? Did you just ask us what we're doing to the land? It's literally 9:20 now, 9:25.
I'm sorry if you're a little impatient with my question, but as I explained, I'm trying to make
I'm
sure I
not
get
impatient
it.
with your question. I don't mean any disrespect. I'm just letting you know we're not going to redo all the testimony.
I'm just asking you to just answer it. What are you going to do? Just when you say disturb, what does disturb
Wait, just
mean?
hold on a second. I think Mr. McClellan has a different, what do you
No,
think?
I'm wondering if maybe, if you want to ask the question again, but maybe the way you're wording it, we're taking it wrong.
Okay.
So do you want to try again?
Okay, I'm trying to understand, when somebody says, I want to increase the limits of disturbance, when you say disturb, what does that mean?
Okay.
That,
May I?
yeah.
Okay.
That's better.
So in 2003, when that plan was approved and the board, the town didn't have a steep slope ordinance, there was a requirement to show a limit of disturbance on the entire project. That criteria came from the Soil Conservation District. They want to know what you're disturbing, and quite frankly, that disturbance line back in 2003's primary purpose was to help generate a fee that the application would cost. If you looked at the entire property and the disturbance line from 2003, very impractical for the entire development, because there's areas where that line is 5 feet off of a house. And you can't possibly build a house like that, let alone have a yard. So as we progress through this, with steep slope disturbances and realistic expectations on how to build the property, going back several years, we started with reevaluating, and we had to come in for variances on several occasions because the original line set for the soil erosion purposes could not be used. It couldn't build the homes. So the town had decided that, well, we don't have a slope disturbance from 2003, but we do have a disturbance line. So we were permitted to disturb that, but we knew that many of the lots were not going to be feasible to build in that. So we've come back to the board several times, and we're here again. So it's not just we want to disturb more slopes. It's we want to be able to build the house in a way that's marketable and appropriate. So the result of that causes the disturbances that we're talking about. And we recognize that those disturbances by today's, or if we proposed that disturbance in 2003, the board would have approved it because it didn't violate any ordinances. However, in 2023, and there is a slope ordinance, we need relief in order to disturb those areas. So it's not let's disturb it and then put a house. It's how do we get the house and the property developed the way we want it? Well, to do it, we started out very focused on retaining walls, and that, as council said, subdivisions and those things weren't working out so well. So here we are now to try to minimize the amount of walls, and that does mean a little bit more disturbance because we're sloping instead of cutting it off. But we also think that at the end of the day, when it's remediated and planted and the trees are in and the houses are landscaped, it looks quite nice what it's done, and it works very well from an environmental perspective. Drainage will work, no more soil erosion, and it'll be aesthetically pleasing.
Okay, I'm not going to ask about your landscaping plan because that hasn't been presented yet. I got a question about it later, but I just want to make sure I understand. For whatever reason, you're asking us, let's stick to the 2023 plan for some of this, but let's ignore it for others because the limits of disturbance that were set back in 2023 maybe aren't valid anymore. But the fact of the matter is, if I'm understanding you right,
What's your question? What's your question?
my question is it true that you are expanding, like I think you said, the area of disturbance by nearly 4 acres? Yes?
3 acres.
3.5? 3.5?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. I got a question about steep slopes. And thank you for being patient with me here. The steep slope disturbances, there were no, I thought that I read somewhere that way back when, they only used to care about slopes that were over 25% steepness, but now we care about everything that's 15% steepness and up, right?
There were no slope regulations in 2023, were there?
What, 2003?
2003, I'm sorry.
So 2020, in
2003,
2003,
no regulation,
okay, but now the standards are different, right?
which is what we testified to.
Okay. And my question to you is, when you build today and when you are asking the board to approve things today, which set of regulations do you have to abide by?
Well,
the
there
ones
are
from
two-
2023 or the ones from 2003?
There are two answers to that question. Two answers to that question. If you don't change the approval from 2003, you can build along those lines. You have vested rights from the filing of the plat in January of 2003 that continue to this day, and the development has been developed along those lines. I think that the board's attorney would agree with me and the board's planner would agree with me that if you deviate or try to change the 2003 approval, you open the door to all the changes and regulations that have happened since 2003. So it comes up to date. Current standards need to be applied. So we can stick with 2003 or we can change it.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification. If you were to stick with the 2003 plan and the 2003 standards, you would therefore be building the same two homes, but you'd be building them a lot closer to the Beverly cul-de-sac, and you'd have to build a bigger wall. Do I have that right?
Well, we don't know the answers to that question because we haven't designed that home to the 2003 standard. We didn't think anyone would ask us, what's it going to look like if you do it like this, because that has not been our experience with the boards in Parsippany. We have been asked that tonight, so I don't know if it's the same home or a different configuration or whatever, and we would have to provide that to them. And also, by the way, I know my client is absolutely dying for me to say this. If you deviate from the 2003 stand approval, you can really come in for an approval of anything. For instance, the municipality needs affordable housing projects since the affordable housing plan has collapsed. So we could put an apartment building there too.
Again, sir, if you put an apartment building there, you're going to have to deal with these same issues on steep slopes and limits of disturbance and everything else we're going to bring up tonight.
Yes, but then I have the courts behind me, specifically.
Ooh, well, I'm not going to say how I react to that. Okay, I'm going to follow the rules here and stick to my question. My question is, these steep slope variances that we're talking about, why are those regulations put in place?
Why are the regulations put in place?
Why do steep slope regulations exist? What's the purpose?
We've been asking that question for years.
I don't think I have the legislative findings for why those regulations were adopted. I've heard commentary on that, but I'm not comfortable in assigning motivations to what people did. You'd have to ask them.
No, there must have been some good outcome that was intended to be
He
achieved.
said he can't answer the question. He said he can't answer the question.
Okay.
We're not going to answer the question,
Okay.
okay? I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. Do you have any other questions for him?
Okay, I do, actually. So according to the plans that were submitted, and I don't care whether we're talking about the 2019 or 2023 plans, but in either case, you're asking for steep slope variances that far exceed the amount allowed.
Is that a question?
I'm going to ask the question.
Because you just made a statement. Ask your question, please.
The question is, what is the justification for asking for such an extreme variation to the steep slope ordinance?
I will answer that question. I will answer that question in two parts. The first part is we are not asking for excessive steep slope variances. We are asking for appropriate steep slope variances, and the reasoning for that will be provided by our planner, who is the next witness. So
Then
you can
I'll
ask
reserve
him
my
that
question for the planner. Thank you, and thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Jillian Crane, C-R-A-I-N. I just have one question.
Address, ma'am.
6 Long Ridge Road.
Thank you.
So, the rights of nature protect ecosystems within the environment from human-caused destruction and are applied to any land in the United States. Do you believe that your construction has abided the rights of nature?
Could you repeat what that standard is called, please?
Rights of nature,
Is that a state-adopted standard or adopted by Parsippany?
adopted by the U.S. and Canada.
Adopted by the U.S. and Canada? We are not familiar with that. It is not an applicable regulation here. I'm sorry, we cannot answer your question.
Okay.
Hello, Judy Hernandez, Hernandez, and I live on 5 Moraine Road. I'm going to ask a question because I'm not sure I heard correctly. I understand about the 2003 approval. I understand what we're doing now. I'm not going to make any statements. You did mention, or somebody mentioned, that there was an opportunity for the parcels not to be developed, to go back to the town. Can you clarify that?
No, there was at one point, there was a subdivision being proposed at the planning board because there was some pushback, and I'm not specifically sure from who, it's been a long time, that they did not want to take such a large portion that you see at the bottom of the plan that's up there, the remainder lot where the pump station was. So the building lot houses were designed to take up the majority of what you see in that picture. That was abandoned.
Okay, because you said it was the last administration and I was on the planning board. I don't recall that.
Well, you did see that application then.
Okay.
But we withdrew that application because that was decided that was not a good plan, and we would revert back to the original configuration, which is giving the big lot there, 4509, when the developer finally turns over the pump station at the end of this process, he'll turn over that entire lot.
Okay, so this wasn't by any chance the time that the developer was not allowing any soil testing at all for the town to take over that land? Does that sound?
The town not allowing soil testing
The
by the town?
developer, yeah.
I'm not aware of anything
Okay.
involving soil testing.
Okay.
And I will say there was a statement earlier about it being Green Acres. It's not Green Acres. The town's not paying for it. This is part of the developmental approval. The town can then subsequently add it to its Green Acres inventory, but there's no Green Acres funding being used for the acquisition of this lot.
Okay.
It's being deeded over.
Okay, thank you. And for the next meeting, I'm assuming we're going to have another meeting. Will we be able to, the zoning board and the public, have up-to-date documents that we could all look at and work from?
There seems
We will
to
be
some
filing
disagreement
additional
as to whether we have the documents, they ever gave us the documents. Documents will be resolved
Yeah.
as soon as possible.
Okay.
Because these two guys had to get the documents prior to our next
Oh.
meeting, 10 days prior to our next meeting.
I know.
Correct?
I know.
Correct?
And Nora's
Okay.
pretty good with that
Okay.
stuff, so I know. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Judy.
It's just a little bigger.
My name is Bill Paseznik, P-A-S-I-E-C-Z-N-I-K. I live at 49 Long Ridge Road, about 300 feet above these proposed houses. The existing approvals, can you build on those lots without bringing more soil in?
I'm sorry.
What was the
With
question?
the existing approvals that you have, can you build on the remaining lots without bringing more soil into the property?
Well, as we've indicated, we haven't done a formal plan for that, so we'd have to reserve the comment on that.
You've never looked at that?
We didn't expect anyone would say, build it to the 2003 approval. No, we never looked at that.
You brought a lot of soil in those lots already, right?
I didn't hear that question.
How
I'm
much
sorry.
soil was brought in on those 3 lots already?
Brought in a lot of soil on those 3 lots already?
Previous approval to do that. I don't know.
Based on the prior approvals, yes.
Yeah. And now instead, you're proposing to bring in 7.5 miles of trucks, bumper to bumper, to fill in the hillside.
No, that's not an accurate description. That's not an accurate description.
What's
of going on.
40,000 square feet? How many yards are in the truck? 20?
We're not talking about bringing trucks in for miles and miles, bumper to bumper. You haven't been listening to our application. We're talking about spacing that out over a period of time.
But I'm just saying the total of it is
You're just
bringing-
saying in fantasy land, if we did it all at the same time,
Yes.
on the same day,
Yes.
and dumped it all on the site, that's not going to happen.
How many truckloads of soil have you brought in on this property already total?
I don't have that information.
How come?
Because it's not part of this application.
You're doing a creeping subdivision, and you don't have information that you did in the past.
Well, I've been practicing for 22 years. I don't know what a creeping subdivision is, so you'll have to enlighten me on that.
Look it up legally.
Change
Did
your
you-
attitude, okay, please? Change your attitude. Ask questions of the man, but just change your attitude a little bit, okay? It's not appropriate for this meeting, okay?
Did you look at alternative places of dumping the soil versus bringing soil in from another town into Parsippany?
Not part of this application. We will not testify to anything that's not part of this application.
You're bringing soil in from another town to dump it in Parsippany, is that correct?
We are bringing soil as described
From
into
another town.
Parsippany. So you can
Don't dump-
characterize it however you want, but it's part of the application.
Don't dump on Parsippany.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't understand anything you said.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Chris Bayless. I reside at 38 Long Ridge Road in the Puddingstone Heights neighborhood. I only have one question, and it is about the soil. And my curiosity is this. The absorption of the soil that you're bringing in, Could you describe for us lay people what that might mean from an erosion perspective? The reason why I ask the question is because we know that there is, thanks to the town, who has recently curbed our neighborhood, it's collected an awful lot more rainwater. And if you look at your map, I believe it dumps it on the northerlymost lot.
The head wall off the north of us.
So the question is, will the absorption capabilities of the soil that you're bringing in be at least as good as the soil that currently exists on the mountain? Because erosion is a real problem on a mountain.
Before you answer the question, Mr. McClellan, have you tested the soil you're bringing in?
No.
We cannot answer the question.
Okay, can we footnote that for later?
No, we're
Follow-up?
not going to test the soil that we're bringing in.
Why would you bring in something that has less absorptive power than what currently exists on the mountain?
As we explained, those calculations are done by the engineering department in accordance with the standards established by the state and the municipality, and it will be done at that time. This board, it's beyond the scope of this board.
Okay, so you do plan to test it for absorption?
We plan to do all the calculations in accordance with the standards for the design of the stormwater, which is what I assume you're talking about. And that includes the type of soil that's being put in. Whether it's an absorption rate or not, frankly, I don't know. I don't know if Mr. McClellan's actually an expert in that. He might know. But it'll be done as part of the engineering, done after the application.
Okay, I'll hold my question then for later.
Well, it's not going to be part of this application.
I understand.
It's going to be something you're going to have to monitor with the municipality.
You mean these guys will have to monitor, our town will have to monitor?
It is beyond the scope of the zoning board of adjustment. It'll be handled by the engineer appointed by the municipality.
Okay, let me change my question. The stormwater that you acknowledge with your head nod, could you describe to all of us how that is being appropriately managed for the northerlymost lot?
That's the same question we just had, which is the design of the stormwater system, which will be done, should this board see fit to grant this approval, through standards with the township attorney.
Okay.
The township engineer, pardon me.
Okay. Would you commit to ensuring that any tactics that you take with regards to the soil will not be to the detriment of erosion on the mountain?
I can tell you, I think Mr. McClellan can tell you, I'll ask him to confirm it, that the current stormwater regulations provide all water generated on the site must be contained on that site. Is that accurate, Mr. McClellan?
Yeah, we have very stringent rules that are going to protect the surrounding properties. We have to reduce the runoff. We have to infiltrate into the ground. We have to enhance the water quality. We have to utilize non-structural best management practices and green infrastructure. It's going to be one heck of a design to build 2 homes, but we're bound by state statute to do that, and it will be reviewed by the engineering department to confirm compliance.
Okay, we look forward to those plans. Thank you for your time.
We do too.
Thank you. Refresh my memory. Didn't we approve 2 big walls for this property subsequent to the 2000? Wasn't that?
No, Mr. Arcane, I think that was a different one of the lots.
Different project?
Yeah. 2 lots down the road.
Okay. And not on the same development or not?
Part of the same development.
We approved 2, the philosophy when you came in that time was that in order to create a backyard, you had to put the walls up. And you were taking down less trees because you were putting the wall up.
To comply with the plan that was done previously in 2003, those lots, while not part of this application, certainly reflecting back on this application, those walls needed that tiering that's being discussed. So we eliminated that for a larger wall to create a backyard, and that's the application you're thinking.
And this is all in the same neighborhood?
It's the same neighborhood.
Around the corner.
Do you remember it?
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
Any other members of the public?
I have one. Excuse me, Lawrence Frohnhafer. I'm at 1 Long Ridge Road. If I don't
Spell your last name, sir?
Sure. Frohnhoefer.
Thank you, sir.
1 Long Ridge Road. I just have one question. does the developer own contingent property in addition to what you're talking about? In that area? And is it the intention of the developer to possibly develop that using the changes to enhance possibilities for the future? In other words, you had dropped casually that there might be a senior housing or some additional low and moderate income housing development that could be on that property. So I'm wondering, how big a property do you have, and are you considering coming back to the board using the same slope and other variances that you're getting on these to augment any requests in the future? Let me
I
ask
was
that.
referring in my comment, I was referring to the 3 lots that are under discussion this evening. I'm aware of an adjacent lot, not controlled by this developer, that has been discussed from time to time for development. But this application represents the end of the 2003 approval and our client's activities relating to that.
All right, fair enough. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
How do I do this?
Name, spell your last name and address.
No, I meant get to the microphone. My name is Barbara Weinerman, Weinerman. I live at 25 Long Ridge Road in Puddingstone.
Thank you.
And I wasn't intending to speak, but I'm here. I have a couple of questions. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can
All
hear
right. I am also not an engineer. I did not understand the plans that we had at the clubhouse to look at. So I'm going to ask what you might consider stupid questions, but I don't understand. You have 2 lots that you want to build on, right?
That's correct.
If you do not do the things you are proposing, are those lots unbuildable upon? Like you can't put anything up unless you bring in the soil, cut into the mountain or add to the mountain. I'm not sure which you're doing. So
Excuse me, do you remember at the beginning of the meeting when we discussed that we could all go home tonight, and Mr. O'Neill could go up with a bulldozer and start building on those 2 lots tomorrow if he puts the walls up? The lots are buildable. Am I wrong?
Yes, but there has been a request to show that in plan. And I think perhaps the better answer would be to comply with Mr. Chadwick's request. We'll prepare the plan and show you what we're talking about.
Oh, okay, that's fair. My second question is your client the same builder who put up the 3 houses at the end of my development where Long Ridge and High Ridge meet at the top of that? Is that the same?
Long Ridge Road?
Yes, is that the same developer who put in those 3?
Those 3 houses were part of the original approval for the 24 homes.
Okay, so my question is about trees, because you clear cut those properties.
Right, yes.
And I count maybe 6 trees there that you have replaced.
Right.
And you're saying you have an extensive plan for the reforestation of the area which you are planning to
For this
again,
project. For this
clear
project.
Yes.
So you have already clear cut the beginning of the property that faces Beverly? Is that what you just said?
The portion of the lot that was permitted to be disturbed by the original approval has been disturbed.
That wasn't my question. My question was,
That's
did you clear cut it?
That's the trees removed.
Yes,
Soil.
you took all the trees, is the question. I also thought I heard you say when I think someone on the board asked about the clear cutting, I wasn't sure if you said that was the best way to do it or the easiest way to do it. Why is it clear cutting the whole area? I live in Puddingstone and we have tons and tons of mature trees, so builders evidently can build on properties without taking the trees.
Questions?
The tree is, why are they clear cutting?
Okay, you asked your question.
Okay, so
now let him answer, okay? Thank you.
The clear cutting unfortunately has to happen because of the changes of the elevation of the ground. So the trees are going to be buried and won't survive. So in this case, again, because it is a lot of trees coming down, and unlike Long Ridge, where the dwellings were built within the approved limits, so that's the difference. Here we're asking for permission to go outside just because of the result of what the dwellings would look like if they were built in accordance with the original approval. But that's also why we're proposing an extensive reforestation plan. It's going to take some trees away, we got to put some back.
And we'll be presenting that with our next witness.
Okay. Am I wrong in assuming then that your builder also plans to put more trees up in our area where he built those 3 houses?
The application before the board this evening only pertains to these 3 lots.
All right, I'm sorry, I digressed then. So then I have one other question. No, it's been asked. Sorry, I'm not going to do that. All right, you've answered my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, did you say there was going to be a part of the meeting where we can make statements?
I'm sorry, I'm a little hard of hearing. I can't, I'm sorry.
Did you say there's going to be a part of this proceedings where people can come up and make statements?
Yes. Yeah, at the end.
Okay, thank you.
After the applicant has completed his application, at that point, members of the public can come forward, they will be sworn in, you'll have sworn testimony, and you can say reasonably whatever you want.
Okay, all right,
But the way this is going, I just hope we get to that day before New Year's.
Well, thank you for your clarifications, but no thank you for your sarcasm. Not appreciated.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Nick was up here. Nick again.
Make it quick, Nick. 9:54.
State your name, spell your name.
He was already here.
Nicholas Homiak, 26 on 90 Avenue, Lake Hiawatha. We talked about trucks and moving soil, and you don't want to do it in the summertime. Is this developer aware of the restrictions, or the presence, I should say, of the endangered Indiana and long-eared bat that is the range, the hibernarium range is in Parsippany, and when you take down trees at the wrong time of the year, you may do further injury to this species, and there's also rules concerning migratory birds, that trees shouldn't be removed when the hatchlings are being born. Has the developer honored those restrictions and guidelines?
Mr. Homiak, I can assure you that this developer will follow all applicable regulations as they apply to this site.
Well, can you tell me what months that that these great tree removals took place?
Well, seeing as how first off, the prior tree removal is not part of this application. And secondly, I've never seen a report detailing any habitat on this site. We looked.
Well, that's
Can
then.
I just say something? They already testified that they're removing the trees in October.
The tree removal application.
And according to the environmental report, that was the recommendation to protect the long-eared bat.
And the migratory birds, there's 2 series of dates.
Migration happens in the spring, so does the nesting season.
All right, can you state the exact dates?
Thank you. Well,
All right, well, the question...
We're done.
So you can't ask the board, just...
Thank you for correcting me, Mr. Kaplan. We will comply with all regulations.
He's going to comply with all regulations.
Hopefully.
No, Mr. Homiak. We're going to comply with all regulations.
It's all right, okay. We'll see.
What do you want? We're going to comply with all the regulations.
One final question. When the one woman was up here and she said the square foot she likes to speak in acres, and I agree with that, because when you're talking square feet, it's not easy to comprehend. So give me an example. The
Mr.
question
Homiak,
is...
I'm going to cut you off because that's a math problem. The plans were filed with calculations done in accordance with the standards requested by the board's professionals. I'm not going to ask Mr. McClellan to continue all through the night converting square feet into acreage.
No.
So if that's your question.
It's
okay.
one simple question. So I'd like to have the approval to ask the question. It's very simple. The question is, for example, lot 45-11 is 3.04 acres.
Just hold on.
The severely strained slope is 92.50%, or 2.82 acres of the 3.4 acres, and the moderately constrained is 0.22 acres, 7.31%. So
Mr.
how
Homiak,
much?
We do not agree with your math.
How? It's right here on the detailed property report. How
What
much of
detailed
that
property?
3.4 acres will be disturbed or erased?
We've already provided testimony as to the areas of disturbance. What report are you referring to?
Advanced property report. It's a scientific...
Prepared by who?
By the New Jersey Highlands Council. It's a scientific tool that the public, it makes available to the public for land use characteristics that exist on the landscape.
Where did
For
you get-
example,
Hold on. Where did you get that?
on the official website,
I
New
hereby
Jersey...
object to the entry of evidence from
Nick, we
web
don't
that
accept
we
stuff
cannot
from the
cross-examine.
internet. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
It's not from Mars, it's from the state of New Jersey. Do we live in the state of
We
New
have
Jersey?
no ability to cross-examine.
No, my question is, do we live in the state of New Jersey?
Nick,
Do we live in the state of New Jersey?
Nick, we have no proof that that document came right from the internet, right from a regulatory agency. We don't know if it's been doctored in any way. He can't.
No, we
he
have
can't
no
question it.
idea about who prepared it. We can't ask them questions. And the courts in New Jersey have
And we
held,
told you before,
if
you
you
can't
cannot
present
ask the
documents
person
when
questions
you're asking
prepared to
questions.
report.
I'm not presenting the document. I'm asking for an example of the acreage as compared to square feet. That was the
I
question.
indicated we are not doing acreage calculations tonight. We provided it in square footage. You got it in square footage from us on a plan. Why are you going to the
The
internet?
one woman asked you to talk in acres, and you did not speak to that woman's question
Ladies
in
and
acres.
gentlemen,
All right.
since we do not have a date to carry this meeting because obviously we need this facility again. So,
Carry it to August 9th for announcement.
Is that our
of a
meeting in
new
August?
date.
Okay.
That's it, that's a regular
Okay.
meeting.
so there's not going to be any further notification to the homeowners. The only notification you're going to get is at this meeting. So now, I'm asking for a motion to carry this case to August 9th. It's not going to happen on August 9th. It's, on August 9th, we will announce when the meeting is going to be. Because we have to make arrangements, because of the size of the crowd, we have to make arrangements for a venue. Now, if we get into September, and school is open again, I don't know what we're going to be able to do. So, do I have a motion to carry this case to August 9th without further notice? Extensions, whatever, as required?
All extensions granted through the end of August.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, do you understand what I'm saying? You're going to have to check with, you either have to be here August 9th to hear it, or you're going to have to check after August 9th with the zoning office to when the meeting's being carried.
You don't know if it'll actually be carried that night. You don't know yet for sure, but you have to check in with your, with...
It's not going to be August 9th.
Okay, it's not
That's
going to
just for notification.
Okay, thank you. I didn't want to know that. Okay.
I don't handle, I am not in administration, I'm sorry. I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Check with the administration about
about posting meetings on the website. That's not my responsibility. I'm sorry. Call the mayor's office and find out how you do it.
They do it, yeah.
Yeah, they do it.
Okay, they do it? I didn't know.